is super important to just own it, share it, be proud of it,
Yeah.
like rock it. Like no one
Love
else
it.
is going to tell you what your social media presence should look like. Make it work for you. And if you can do that in a way that aligns with kind of growing yourself as a business, then amazing. Why would you not?
Welcome back to the Corner Talks podcast. I have my good friend here.
How's it going, man? Happy to be back.
No, it shouldn't be about anything. Like, this is one life.
Yep, one life? Like, fucking do it.
My guy.
Like, she just got it. She totally understood it.
20 years old when I started just watching a lot of movies.
And it tells a story. I want to tell a story.
Special guest, the talented actress, model, Maria Frankis. How are you?
Hello. I'm great. Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm fantastic. Thank you. Maria, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's truly a pleasure. After seeing your tremendous support from a recent episode with your talented boyfriend, Obi Kudu.
So sweet. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I was actually here during the interview.
Yeah, so I was going to say,
I was just hiding in the other room. Yeah,
the backdrop is similar. I noticed it because I'm pretty observant. The Toronto.
Yeah, I was like, how can I
yeah,
not
right.
have the exact same background? Yeah,
I can't have that. You guys are sharing the same backdrop. I need a different backdrop for every episode.
I had to. I've got a little plan just to jazz it up for you.
I love that. Yeah, definitely more color in the back.
Yeah, little pop.
Perfect. Yeah, well, that's awesome. So yeah, it's such an honor to have you on the podcast. Obi and I, I'm sure like we've worked on a film called Demon, which is coming out soon. So I directed him in a lead performance. And then I've kind of, through conversation, understood that you're also an actress. And from our conversations together, I've come to understand like you're a creative individual following the path of the performative artist. And I want to know, like, how were you first introduced to film and television?
I mean, I was just a very out there kid.
Okay.
I was definitely the one crafting little scenes and being like, all right, family, Sunday, 6 p.m. You're gonna sit around. You're gonna watch my little one woman show that I made at like 7 years old.
Yeah.
So definitely just always been very much into the arts. I danced a lot as a kid, and I was definitely into singing. So just kind of all in all realms. I enjoyed performance. And then I went to school in England for acting. So I was in that program for a couple of years, and then I moved here and just kind of continued in that lane.
That's awesome. No, what stuck out to me is that you describe yourself as an extrovert, right? From day one kind of thing, right? Like in your childhood years. And the reason why it's kind of interesting to know is that there are some like myself that are introverted. More so, obviously I've come out of that, but when I was a child, I was very reserved, very to myself. I wasn't shy per se. I just only spoke if I was spoken to, kind of thing. Like I didn't really care to be out there. And obviously through the profession, like I needed to put myself out there, or else we wouldn't be having this conversation.
100%.
But what I'm saying is that it's very interesting to know that you were just out the gate, like ready to perform and just being out there. And for me, like to even comprehend that would be too daunting, right? Especially as a young child.
Yeah.
And it's interesting as what I'm saying is creatives is it's not like in order to be this, you got to be like this, like my parents, when I wanted to pursue the arts were telling me, yeah, but you're again, reserved and you're not fanatical and you're not egotistical. You're not those people we see on TV. And a lot of the guests that I've seen on this podcast that I've come to understand is that we channel that, right? Whether it's extroversion or introversion, like we channel those qualities into making the best craft that we can. Do you agree with me on that?
Yeah, totally. And I don't think that you have to be an extrovert at all to be in this profession.
I believe that. At one point in my career, I thought you needed to. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I was at that point. I'm sure a lot of creatives struggle with that, where we're to ourselves so much, where it's like, how do we, like, I remember going to networking events because I never went to film school. And just like being nervous at the idea of like just going up to someone like yourself and like, hey, I'm a filmmaker. Like, this is what I do, because I just didn't, it was cheesy to me. It felt contrived.
Yeah.
And what I quickly understood is that, no, that's where you need to adapt those qualities of an extrovert to put yourself out there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just mean, I don't think that you have to be naturally an extrovert to be extroverted at times, like to do those kind of uncomfortable intros at a networking event, because I'm an extrovert, but that's still uncomfortable for me too. I'm kind of like, oh my God, like I always want to go with someone.
Yeah,
Sure. But so much importance in talking about it and making that introduction of yourself as like the actor that you believe yourself to be, and hope to sort of sell yourself as to someone else.
That's awesome. Yeah, I like that. You're absolutely right. Just because we're extroverts, or some individuals might identify as such,
Mm.
doesn't mean that they're not human, right? You still have
Yeah,
your insecurities and your anxieties about certain.
totally. Yeah, we all do. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Well, that's really cool, and I love that you put yourself out there and you keep doing so. Like I said, it's very evident on your social media page, which we'll get into.
Mhm.
But what were the incentives that drove you to turn this resounding passion into a lifelong career?
I think it's just an undeniable feeling that I
Okay,
was supposed to do so. Like,
nice.
I just
Okay,
have always really felt it and just had this feeling within, like that is my calling. And who's to say that I can't make that my
yeah,
career? So why not just completely dive in deep and try to make that so? Full-time actor, it's doable. People
I
are
got
doing
this.
it. So I believe I could do it too.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. I love the attitude, right? Like you're very positive, and the thing, what the takeaway from what you just said, and what I resonate with is it's your calling. A lot of people
Yeah.
say, "Oh, I went to an acting class and I really enjoyed the art form and the people around me." And you and I, like, very similar, where we treat it as a calling. Like this is our
Mhm.
purpose. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
this is something that we need to do. That's why I'm
Yeah.
crazy enough to believe it can happen.
Yeah. Me too. I guess we're both crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Both great. But
Yeah.
that's what you need, right? A touch of crazy to pursue this passion. So I love that you're just very natural about it. You just kind of went for it and said, like, listen, this is a calling, and you don't look for any obvious signs or anything like that. Um, in
I
terms of
mean,
like, sorry, go ahead.
I don't want to make it sound like it was so natural for me. I think like
Right, right.
the development of it being something that I was going to go after took a time and confidence to be built. And I'm at a place now where I'm a little bit more aggressive, and just like ready. I wasn't as ready before. I knew I wanted it, but I wasn't as like mentally ready. But now I'm
Right.
ready. So I think it's a different space to
Yeah.
be in. But yeah, I think that's where
Yeah.
the
And it's not
confidence in
to,
his moment comes from.
yeah. And it's definitely not to denounce like the honing of the craft, the time that was worked, that was applied to getting you to this point. It's just that initial spark, like when you're a child. And
Yeah.
like for me, like when I was 5 years old, and that's all I did. I watched movies, little videotapes that my parents gave me, and I always saw the name at the end of the film, right? Directed by Steven Spielberg, let's say, right?
Mhm.
And I said, oh, what does that mean, right? As a kid, you're just like, so when people would go in the playground, and we would, as kids coming up, like they would say, oh, what do you want to be? And people would say policeman, fireman, teacher. I'd say things like director. I'm not kidding you. And people would say like, what? Right?
It's
And
different.
yeah, especially in my community. Like I was born in Toronto,
Yeah.
like the city,
Mhm.
downtown, but I grew up in Vaughan, which is just
Right.
outside the GTA,
Mhm.
right? And to have that mentality, trust me, you were a black sheep. And
Yeah.
what I'm trying to get at is, I never had the skill sets at the time. I didn't know what I was thinking, what I was dreaming. But for it to stay with me, right, for almost 30 years, it's like there has to be something there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, and obviously I kept improving and kept getting better and developing and got me to this point. But that's how I look at it. It's like it'd be such a disservice to give up now. You know what I mean?
Totally. Can I
Yeah.
ask you a question?
Yeah, of course.
Would you would you be happy this not being your career? Like you get to direct on the side always. You can always kind of involve yourself in things,
Right.
but it's not it. You haven't had the opportunity to really land something huge that made it your entire life career. So you still have another job, but you're still dabbling in directing. Maybe it's just short films for the time being, and who knows where it could go. But would that be enough for you?
Very interesting question. I like the way you think. Thanks for asking it. Yeah, the reality is I would always be grateful, I should say the right word is, to be doing what I do, in the sense of being creative and uh, being in part of a profession that not a lot of people can do, or have the opportunity of pursuing, right? Because I know a lot of
Yeah.
filmmakers in my lifetime that paths, whether they there was a fallout or they didn't really bother pursuing it. So it was kind of heartbreaking. So I would
Mhm.
always be
Mhm.
grateful. But yes, I would have a hole in my heart. The reason
Yeah.
being is because I see this, anyone that knows me, bigger and better. Like not because of the vanity, not because of the fame and all that. It's just I've always saw my potential to be on a grander scale. And I try my best every day to prove that, whether it's on this podcast to the audience, to that video I was telling you about before the podcast, like I sent to you. You'll see what I mean is that I really do envision myself being a next great filmmaker, a next great storyteller.
Yeah.
And creating 94 Productions Incorporated, this production company, is a facet of that, right? It's kind of like this multimedia empire that I've established to kind of encapsulate the vision and this tenacity, this ambition I have for myself. So yes, to answer your question, I would not be as happy. I would not be fulfilled. I would be satisfied and grateful, but I would never reach the point of this is who I am. And that's part of how I was raised. My mother taught me that, credit to her, is work never killed anyone. She always told me, she's like, always do it your best. And if you're going to do it half-assed, don't do it at all. So it's kind of like, I'm always going to want more. I'm always going to want to do bigger and better. So doing short films on the side, I don't know where I'm going to be in my life. Maybe I'll find someone, love of my life. We'll get married, whatever, we'll run away. But there's always, I'm telling you right now, and mark my words, there's always going to be a part in my heart that it's always like, what if I could have done this? And what if I could have done that instead? So maybe that obsession will get me to where I need to be, but I know for a fact it never changes. Like even when I was 20 years old, I'm 28 now. When I was 20 years old, my friends would tell me like, oh, do you think it's going to go away? Do you think like maybe you should think of a backup plan? And I always told them with utter conviction to their like in their face, I said, no, I don't think it'll ever go away. And here we are 8 years later. You know what I mean? Like I don't believe in giving up at all. So that's I hope I answered your question correctly. That's basically who I am. Yeah.
Definitely. I completely feel that. Like
yes, great.
The plan B thing, I've had that conversation so many times and I'm like, why do you have to keep pressing me for my plan B? I'm working hard on plan A out here.
Yes,
like
I know.
in my head, there is no plan B. So
I know.
I definitely do resonate with that.
I feel like part of the reason why you asked this question, I could be wrong, but the reason why I ask questions like that too is I'm curious to see the person, because you said we're like-minded individuals, and you're curious to see the response. Like, is it the same as this kind of thing, right?
Yeah. And it is. So
and
like,
it is. Yeah. It's kind of like a rhetorical thing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I got you. Well, I appreciate you asking that. And this is what I mean. Like, this is such a great space for creatives. This is why I do this podcast, to come on and share, our hopes and dreams, but also our, doubts and concerns and experiences. So thank you for that insight. It's been proven to be quite common for the role of the contemporary artist to extend personal ambitions toward other facets within and outside of their respective industries. And upon viewing your Instagram page, I've noticed that you've modeled for magazine covers and streetwear clothing brands. I want to know from you, like, why did you decide to lend your talents toward modeling, and did you enjoy it more than acting?
To me, they're so separate. They're
Okay.
so separate. It's hard for me to like, it just feels entirely different, but
Got it.
obviously it's all encompassed around being right in front of a camera,
Got
which I think obviously there's a connection in that. And the more time I've spent in front of a camera for film has made me more comfortable for modeling and vice versa. I just think for me, it was like during COVID specifically, I had been like bartending before. So obviously I'd lost my job and I'm like, man, I'm just sitting here twiddling my thumbs. Like, what am I going to do?
Right.
And I think in that time, it was really clear that creatives were just going crazy. It just had so much content and ideas and creation bubbling up that they were looking to create. And so it was a great time to be very sort of like to push with my social media, with those connections I was trying to make, so I could work a bit more, so I could fulfill my creative endeavors during the pandemic. Obviously not like peak pandemic, but when it got into the summer, I was definitely doing some fun outdoor shoots and just, I just think there's so much room on social media to just meet people that are like you, especially in a city like Toronto. There's just so much going on in the city. So if you have an idea and you want to share it, or you need like a makeup artist to help you execute and a photographer, a space, like you probably know so many people who they themselves know someone who can help you or they can help you.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I just found a lot of my modeling stuff really did like kick off during the pandemic through the medium of social media. But I really enjoyed it, and that's definitely something I have continued to do. I think also kind of in my mid to later 20s, I have become just a lot more confident, and that's a
Nice.
more comfortable space to be in when you're behind the camera.
Of
Like
course.
a young 20s me was not like, yes, let me do a photo shoot.
Of
Like
course. Of course.
it kind of took a personal development to feel so good about that, and just experience. The more you do it, the more
Of
comfortable it
course.
becomes.
Yeah. I'm happy that you inherited that confidence because again, it's so critical for individuals like ourselves, like creatives in the art space. And
Mhm.
just kind of reflecting back on what you were saying about how these outlets have brought you more opportunities and you saw it as a way to leverage your networking abilities, right? Instead of confining
Yeah,
it to one avenue.
yeah,
I enjoy that a lot because this podcast is a byproduct of it. I
right. Of
used to
course.
think of myself, yeah, I used to think of myself as like, a director, like just gonna make my little films and hopefully one day get the funding I need to make my features. And the pandemic changed everything, my mindset and my perspective, because I didn't know if the world was going to get better. I didn't know where I was going to go from there. So I said, what can
Yeah.
I do? Again, always trying to do more things, being ambitious. And I always wanted to do a podcast. I always enjoyed talking to people. Funny enough, how I was saying I was an introvert before, but
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
really, yeah, I really do find people remarkable and they inspire a lot of the stories I write, like the material. Like if you see
Mhm.
something interesting or even your character, like I might write that in a story one day. Like I just
Cool.
take facets about people. And just I think I did it as a way to be not only therapeutic for the audience, but for myself. I was going through a dark time, like just figuring out
Mhm.
if this path was right for me and how far will I go with it. And speaking to individuals like yourself, I started to understand like I'm not alone. There's other people like that. There's other people that
Yeah.
have bad days. There's other people that have rejections. There's other people that have parents that tell them you can't do it. What are you doing? Get a life, get a job. You know what I mean? So all these things kind of commonly accumulated into this podcast. And I love that you said modeling was kind of like a brave new venture that you sought out and you were able to reap the rewards from it, and realize that you were able to overcome that insecurity, like you said, as a young 20 something, where, oh, I'm not
Mhm.
going to do a photo shoot. Maybe you find it cheesy, or maybe you don't see the benefits or the value of it. And then now you realize, no, this is a great opportunity to meet other creatives, right? Especially as an
Yeah.
actress, right? Like so many actors are doing modeling gigs on because they have the look, right? They're presentable. Um, so that's a great way to network, right? And then communicate and
Yeah.
go back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And it's definitely led to some cooler opportunities. One of my friends, his name is Kari. He's great. Kari Safari. I feel like everyone
Nice.
in the
Oh,
city knows
okay. Is that
that
his
guy.
nickname? Nice.
What?
Kari Safari? Is that his
Yeah,
name?
that's like, well, that's like his kind of, it's his name. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Oh,
It's
I
not,
I don't know if it was a nickname or is his actual name Kari Safari?
I actually am feeling in this moment like I don't know.
Because Safari, like I know
I've
Safari is like a
actually known him
word
for
like
years, so that's terrible. But
sanctuary for animals. I don't know.
yeah,
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 yeah.
no,
Got
he's
it,
kind of
got it.
he's the dancing photographer. He's a lot of fun, but he has been someone like so pivotal for me because he connected me to like so many different people,
Right.
and through that, I've done so many cool things that I wouldn't have expected I would do. So like I feel like the first modeling gig I'd done, I was pretty stiff. I needed so much direction. And eventually I got more and more comfortable, met Kari. He introduced me to a bunch of other people. And then I was doing like, I've done a couple photo shoots like in my bra, not something
Yeah.
I would have expected to do, like a lingerie type shoot. Or I did, Kari also did like a virtual runway during COVID that was also for a lingerie line. So that was super awesome. Just things I would not have expected had you had
Right.
asked me like 2 years prior, but also before that specific connection. Like it's just crazy how one person can connect you to so many different things and they could all look kind of different too. So yeah, no, definitely. Um, shout out to Kari.
No, but I like that what I took away from this is not only do the people matter in, helping you excel your career, right? Like elevate it to
Mhm.
another level. But it pays to have people that you trust and create a safe space, right? Like you were
Yeah,
explaining, you did a photo shoot in your bra, right? Like if you ask a
yeah,
woman, like you're asked your younger self, like, would you feel comfortable? Would you really do that? And that's what it is, right? You build a
yeah.
relationship with these people and you understand it's strictly professional, it's for the work. And
Mhm.
you start to understand too, like for myself, right? Like I do these dance music videos for my 94 collection brand where I work with a lot of like female talent. there's a trust, right? Like this is there.
Yeah.
There's a reason for why we're modeling or posing a certain way. It's not for perverted reasons, right? It's
Yeah, of
strictly for
course.
for
Yeah.
the talent. Yeah, it's strictly for
Yeah.
the artistic view. And the reason why I bring this up is because some people have a hard time distinguishing that, whether it's like an onlooker or people in the industry themselves, right? Like there are people that are the predators, right? And then there are people that are looking to enhance your career. And that's what you got to look for, right? Like that's what you're explaining is not only do you look
Yeah.
for the right people that can help you bring your career to another level, but look for the people that help create a safe space and treat you
Yeah.
professionally. Yeah.
If it feels weird and icky and you've got like this
It's like,
weird gut reaction to it, trust that it is weird. You know,
yes,
I've also
yes,
been in
trust
that
your gut.
position,
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
yeah, you just got to know to follow that feeling, because if it
100%.
doesn't feel safe, then it probably isn't.
And I'm sure we can talk for hours too. Like you've probably encountered some shady characters, as have I. Like you kind of detect them from a mile away. Like, okay, this guy's not really a director. Like he just wants to be, or he
Yeah.
thinks he is. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And can imagine it's probably harder for women, right? The factor is exponential, but the fact is that you have a good head on your shoulders and you're mature about the situation. And what I like about you is that you could tell you're just genuine. You're about the craft. You know, like this is a calling. This is not like I don't know. I like acting. I like this. It's like no, this
Yeah.
is like serious. Like this is something you're
Yeah. I'm
trying
pretty
to
decisive.
navigate. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you're not looking for the vanity of it. It's kind of like I really enjoy the craft and I'm going after it. And I don't know, that's really respectable. It's refreshing to hear, because you don't know nowadays if people are being an actor to be an influencer so they can live off of
Right.
YouTube money,
Right.
right? So
Right.
there's a lot of that, right? And yeah, but I want to know, so how do you intend to cultivate and expand your own professional brand on social media to effectively increase the chances of landing an acting role?
Yeah. Um, I would just continue to share. I feel like there's so much value in sharing and then going back to networking. When you meet people, it just, here's my Instagram, and it can feel a little bit like, oh, this person just like, you just met me, give me my phone, put your Instagram on my phone. It just feels a little transactional sometimes, but truly you never know what could come from those connections. Like it's worth it. Like maybe it appears a little bit transactional in that moment, but it could be beneficial. That might be a follow, then you check out their Instagram and you realize that they are into this thing that you're into, or they film and you also film, or they also act and you might want to, collaborate with them. You guys could write something together. I just feel like there's so much room to grow off of networking, obviously. But for myself, I feel bad because a lot of my content is just me, but that's because my Instagram in my eyes is an opportunity to represent myself as a
Right.
brand. And so when it comes to like my friends' birthdays or whatever, I'm a little bit stingy about making like a post
Right.
with them. And I'm like, it's not because I don't love you. I'm just trying to keep
I got you.
the consistency of
Yeah.
my material.
Nice.
But yeah, I have definitely seen it be super fruitful to post. And then a lot of the shoots that you were mentioning, like the magazine covers, the streetwear brand, like all of that came from Instagram. So it's super important to just own it, share it, be proud of it,
Yeah.
like rock it. Like no one
Love
else
it.
is going to tell you what your social media presence should look like. Make it work for you. And if you can do that in a way that aligns with kind of growing yourself as a business, then amazing. Why would you not?
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, your attitude's remarkable. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you just take it as it is and hit the ground running. And that's how you should be, right? This is how we survive in the business, because we would have been chewed up and spit out a long time ago, but you adapt. And that's what I've kind of taken away from you, right? It's kind of like, hey, social media is a new thing. It's not, let's cry about it. I don't want to post. I don't want to this. It's like, no, let's see what I can do. Let's see how I can immerse myself. Right. And I love that you mentioned where it's kind of like, social media is not a place like for you that is where other people should dictate like what to post and what you should post. It's kind of like, this is my artistic expression, take it or leave it, right? And you need that individualism. I find too much so, a lot of people, especially with this whole woke culture, we tend to go to these certain norms, and we forget the things that make us unique, or we're too afraid that it might be considered outlandish. So I think it's vital that we retain that uniqueness about ourselves.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I think it's so easy for people to be like, oh wow, she likes herself, and you
Yeah,
fear
yeah,
that people are receiving your posts that way. But yeah, again, just remembering that I'm just trying to promote myself and what I can do and how I can be versatile. So yeah, this is my platform to share that.
yeah.
I got to do
And
so with pride.
yeah, and to those people, like, don't be so narrow-minded. Like for me, writing has taught me that, and that's what I
Hmm.
aspire to emulate in my characters. Is it's not black and white. Like
Yeah.
you're right. Like at first glance, I'm not gonna sit here and say like, oh, like some people might think this and that. At first glance, anyone can make judgments about your profile, right? But
Hmm.
having just having a 2-minute conversation with you, like just saying, hey, how are you? You could immediately tell like you're a genuine person. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm. Thank you.
And it's
Likewise.
no, thank you. But that's what I meant by like you look at the profile and you start to understand this is a creative piece. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like
Yeah.
photographing in Vogue. You know what I mean? Like this isn't there's nothing disingenuous about it. So
Mhm.
kudos to you for being strong and confident about that. And
Oh, thank
yeah, and to all those people, widen your perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah. So several creatives like ourselves continue to ponder on the notion of whether the location you currently reside in influences your probability of profound discovery and significant results within the arts. And as a filmmaker who was born in Toronto and conducts most of my creative productions across this vast city, I've come to appreciate the privilege of working in an environment that highly endorses the arts. What
Mhm.
has your experience been like being a working actor in Toronto?
Yeah, well, so I am from England. I moved here 12 years ago.
Nice.
And before I moved here, I was living in a small town called Bury St Edmunds in Suffolk. And that is where I went to college and, got my degree. And I was kind of like, it's not going to happen here.
Right.
This is literally the floral town of the country. Like,
Yeah.
let's be realistic. It's not going to happen here.
Yes.
And at the time, I just didn't feel so inclined to move to London. So, with my family being here, it just felt like a natural progression to come here.
Nice.
Um, and yeah, Toronto has been great to me. Like, I have really experienced it's just a lot, I think, in the city. And I think there's always more to encounter, which again is so awesome being in a big city and being like, wow, I feel like I've accomplished quite a bit, but there's like so much more I could do and so many people I could still work with here that I've not met yet. So I think Toronto's been a great scene, definitely. I've partaken in a lot of short films. There's just constantly people with an
Right.
idea that do. And even Obi is writing his little short film himself.
I
And
know he was
I've just
telling me.
met, yeah, I was just working on it in my bedroom the other night. Like it's if you have an idea, you just can do it. It doesn't require the most elaborate team or the highest quality camera. You don't need a budget that's crazy out. If you just have an idea, you can execute it. And that might just be a proof of concept that you can put on your Instagram and someone sees it and it's like, oh my God, I love this idea so much. Like, let me invest in it too. So yeah, I'm kind of trailed off, but
No, no, for sure.
Toronto essentially has been great. And I think there's both people on the rise and very accomplished people here. And I found it to be a great space to be in. Yeah, for the time being, it definitely has treated me well. And
Yeah,
we'll see.
that's great to hear. I'm so happy that you consider Toronto home. I know I
Mhm,
have.
mhm.
Toronto is very much my home, and I intend to be back in the city because that's where a lot of my work and production happens. The reason
Yeah,
why I bring
okay.
this question, yeah, the reason why I bring this question up is because for the longest time growing up, I always thought LA was the place to be. You know what I mean? And I'm sure as an
Mhm.
actor, you would know. Everybody told you, yeah, if you want to make it, you got to go to LA. That's where the movie stars are, right?
Yeah.
And really, like in the last few years, I think with the pandemic and just seeing the traction of my career, my perspective's changed. Not that I'm not going to be going to LA. Like I still have clients there. I still do work there.
Mhm.
I still want to be associated with Los Angeles, of course.
Yeah.
It's just the idea of picking up and uprooting and going there to grind it out and make it has changed with the advent of social media. And
Yeah.
I feel like also for acting, it's the same thing. Would you agree? Like you don't really need Toronto, first of all, has become an entertainment hub. I should mention
Mhm.
that remarkably, because when I remember it as a kid, it was not to the level it is now.
Yeah.
And I just want to know from you, like, do you agree with that? Like, did you come to Toronto for that reason, or do you intend to go to Los Angeles eventually?
I mean, if we're aiming for Hollywood, it's you feel you know it's probably gonna be LA, right?
Of
But
course, yeah.
um, yeah, I feel like my little girl dreams, like big picture is LA. Like even my screensaver on my laptop is like a big picture of a Hollywood
Oh,
sign. I
manifestation.
think
I love it. Yeah.
yeah, I think I feel a pull to go there for my work sake,
Okay.
but and also my dad now lives in California, so even the
Oh, wow.
idea doesn't seem so far-fetched because I
Oh,
have
okay, great.
family
Yeah.
kind of in the States.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not as scary to me because of that, but I don't know. I'm really open-minded. Like wherever this takes me, I am just gonna go with it. Like I am ready. I will pack a case. If you're like you're filming in LA for 3 months and you got to be ready tomorrow, LA, here I come. I'm down
Awesome. So you're open-minded to it, of course, and that's what it
for
is, right?
sure.
It's like Toronto's still your home, but it's not like, oh, I need to go there to make things happen. It's like you just proved it, right? You've been proving it this whole podcast. There's
Mhm.
opportunities in Toronto, and you're currently working on, getting gigs and films and auditions and things like that. Um,
Yeah.
I just asked, like, so when you moved to Toronto, like, was it like a logistical thing, like you couldn't move to the US because it was more complicated with a visa, or you just thought like Toronto would be the place to be? I'm curious as to why I'm
Yeah.
saying you're an actress and you didn't think like Los Angeles was like the number one place to go.
Yeah. I mean, I was 18 when I
Okay.
moved, and at that time, my family were all here,
Oh,
so
okay.
I didn't
Okay.
have that connection to America just
Okay. Now it
yet. So
makes
it would have
sense.
been
Yeah.
a lot harder to get in.
Of course. Of course.
But yeah, so I think it was kind of first let me like try out Toronto. It's a lot bigger than where I'm from, like a lot bigger than where I'm from, and that felt like a good step, and then
Yeah,
we'll
for
kind of
sure.
ease into that, see how we're feeling. But yeah, at this point, I love Toronto. If my career could totally flourish, I'd gladly stay here. But maybe I'd snowbird and get away for the winters because I kind of hate it.
Yeah, I know
But
the winters
over
kill.
to
Tell me
LA.
about it. I shot something actually last weekend,
Ugh,
at the underpass. No, the people that we're shooting with were like, yeah, we're good. We're fine. It was a dance music video,
man.
and I was like, are you guys sure? Like I repeated it 5 times, like 1,000 times. It was crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're like, we're good. So we showed up. It was -14. Everyone was shivering. And
Ugh,
again, as you know, like I have a big heart, so I just couldn't. I didn't want to see him like that. But I still did the shoot. But the whole time I was like, "You guys okay? You sure you're okay?"
yeah, like let's
Right?
get through this ASAP because
Yeah, yeah. Like I'm sympathetic towards my talent, right? I don't want them
yeah.
to suffer because in the audience, right? Someone like you could tell, like, "Ooh, did they have a good time?" But
Oh,
I'm
for
sure,
sure.
yeah. Like
Visible. Yeah.
as I'm editing the project now, I'm kind of proud of it because I start to realize how much I was right about like making sure you're comforting the talent and that they're comfortable because it showed on the screen that they weren't cold. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was no
Yeah.
indication because they got comfortable and they enjoyed the work ethic. So we went from there.
Yeah, and when you're inspired and you're feeling excited about the thing
Mhm.
at hand that you're doing, I think that takes precedence over feeling chilly. Like the second the camera is rolling, you're not just like, oh my God, I'm so cold, I can't think about my lines. You're like, I came here to show up, do a performance, and I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
It takes precedence. So
And
hopefully,
Obi, yeah, and Obi paid a really big compliment to me that he said that I strike him as like a strong, like effective leader that he witnessed like on Demon that set. And the reason being is
mhm,
because there was a lot of chaos like going on in the sense that things
yeah,
were delayed and but my kind of leadership is not loud. It's more like in control and composed. So what I mean by
right.
that is I could easily freak out because I was freaking out on the inside. Like we're not going to shoot
Yeah,
this in 2 days. And I was like being this self, like jovial, like just
yeah,
sitting, waiting for things to get set up. And I remember two production assistants came up to me and they were like, "Yeah, like you just seem so chill. Like you don't." I'm like, Listen, I get it. Like I could be that guy, like freaking out. First of all, everyone's here on the basis of their own time. No one's really actually getting that
mhm,
paid, right? There's no money on the line, so that's crossed off. And second,
yeah,
it's like, who am I? Like, if I just start lashing out and show you guys how I really feel about how things are running, it's just going to suffer the project, and
yeah.
no
There's
one's
a
going to
ripple
want to do it.
effect,
Exactly,
100%.
right? So it's like,
Yeah,
imagine you're my actress, right? And I just don't like how the day's going, and you have an important scene coming up, and I'm like lashing out at someone. You see me like scold this guy. How are you going to feel when you perform? And I need you to do an intimate, like sensitive scene.
yeah,
You know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah. You get like you're in a space where already is very vulnerable to be vulnerable in front of
Yes.
a crew of like who knows how many people, or it could be like 10, it could be 50, like who knows how many people are around you. So definitely I think director has a really key place in sort
Oh
of
yeah.
cultivating that kind of safe space. And I think if you can stay calm, that really does transcend, because there's like, it's a nervous environment to be in, you know. There's obviously this high pressure. You're all like, maybe we have just this one day to get this work done. Like there's a lot of weight on that. And so if everyone's frantic about it, that's not helping anything. So I know he appreciated it, and I'm sure everyone else that works with you does too.
Yeah, thank you a lot. I appreciate it. And yeah, I'm looking forward for you to watch that film, Demon. It's coming out, and
Me too.
yeah, it'll be definitely quite an experience, because I had a lot of fun making it. And
Yeah.
as I always say, we only go up from there. So
Yeah,
I'm really proud of the progress I've made. And yeah, just looking at the effort we all put in. So really appreciate, Maria, you coming on the podcast, discussing your journey,
course.
giving us an insight on your perspectives as a actress and a model. Do you have anything else to say before you leave?
Check out for me on your little Instagram. Keep scrolling, because I have a sponsored ad that keeps popping up right now, and I'm making
Yes.
very funny faces.
Awesome.
And I guess stay tuned. You'll be seeing more of this face.
Awesome. Yeah, stay tuned, everybody. Well, thank you again, Maria, for coming on the podcast. Thank you, everybody else, for listening, and we'll talk soon.